Alright, welcome back. Today's Tuesday, February 24th, 2009. It's 11:07 p.m. As mentioned earlier, we're going to be doing our second episode of the human trafficking cases that we've been working on. Let me get an image up there for you guys real quick. There we go. Okay, so this will be our second show on human trafficking. I think the first one went really well. I'm not exactly sure if it recorded the whole thing, so I hope you guys got a chance to see it live. If not, we do have the archive episode up. It may be missing the last few minutes or not. I'm not exactly sure, but that would have something to do with Ustream. So tonight we are going to go for 45 minutes. If we go over 45 minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick intermission, and we'll continue on. So back to human trafficking. Real quick, I just want to read you some statistics. It says the United States of America is the principal transit and destination country for trafficking in persons. It is estimated between 14,500 and 17,500 people, primarily women and children, are trafficked to and from the United States every year. Now, I was reading that today, and this is, this is something that I read. This comes from the Department of State. This is just amazing how many people go victim or fall prey of human trafficking.
It's unreal.
Yeah, it's crazy. In High Glendale, I was going to bring you in one second. There's a website that you guys can go to. It's called endhumantrafficking.org, and there's all kinds of information that's up there. And once again, it's endhumantrafficking.org. And all the statistics and everything are up there. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, let me clear that graphic off the screen, is that, oops, wrong one, is that I was just doing a search as far as the cities that are most popular for human trafficking, and they are Las Vegas, Boston, and New York. That's in the United States. I did not get statistics on other cities out of the United States, but still, it's absolutely amazing that this stuff still goes on today. So that said, what we're going to do tonight, we're going to bring in Glendine Grant, who is Jesse Foster's mom. Glendine, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How are you doing today?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine. I know we're having.
Thanks for having me back.
You're welcome. I know we're having a little bit of a internet problem here. If you just bear with me 1 second, I'm going to try to fix something here. Almost done, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Your daughter, Jessica Edith Louise Foster, went missing between March 28th and April 3rd of 2006 from Las Vegas, Nevada. Is that correct?
That's right, but we don't believe it was between those days. So we talked to her March 28th, and we were supposed to talk to her again the very next day, and we have not heard back from her since, even though we tried dozens of times in the next few days after that. So, I actually think that it's more pinpointed to the actual 29th of March as to when she went missing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that Peter Todd said that she left on April 3rd, but there was no proof of that either, because why didn't she call us between the 29th and April 3rd if she was just there hanging around,
Right.
So.
Okay, we have this case open, and I have worked on this case. First of all, I want to introduce you. Everybody, Gail St. John's on the phone, Glendine Grant, and Deborah, as usual, is on the show tonight. So how are you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. I'm sorry about these little problems here. I'm trying to get this fixed. My tooth is killing me too. I've got a filling that fell out. But anyways, Gail, you and I worked on this case for a while, and sometimes we came up with some conflicting information, and then sometimes we had some stuff that was pretty much right on. I still believe that that Jesse was a victim of human trafficking. Do you have any thoughts on the recent work that we've done on this case together?
I can hear you. What was that, thoughts on what we've done?
Okay, for Jesse, the recent work that we've done together. I mean, do you have any additional thoughts on that? Possibly where she might be. I had tried to do a dream viewing last night, and I wasn't able to get anything for anybody. So I don't have anything additional to post on that case tonight. But Gail and I have worked together for a while on this case. As I was asking Gail if you had anything additional for this case, or what type of feelings do you get right now?
Well, right now, I still feel like, there is that place that I described before in Las Vegas area. And I still feel it very much that it has to do with that area, and that people in that area around that ranch type place that I described, they know where she is.
Okay. Could this be referring to Peter Todd?
I mean, it's possible, but
Glendine?
I felt so many locations with her, like there was moving around. Some in the U.S., and I know we spoke about some out of the U.S.
That's what I was going to talk to you about.
Yes.
The stuff that I did, puts her in Las Vegas, puts her in New York, and I believe that one said Mexico. Every time I do something for this case, she's somewhere else. But one good thing that I always get is I don't get any feelings of death or any harm. So, Glendine, you think it's possible that she could be traveling around?
Oh, definitely, I do. There's a very good chance she's traveling around. I just somehow I feel that she's more secluded, though, and this is just my reasoning for thinking that is because she's kept away from using a phone, and so I don't know if that's because she's kept in a place where she can't get to one, or is just too afraid to. But definitely, I've thought so many different scenarios, and traveling around is one of the ones that I think of a lot.
Okay.
I just, I just don't know why, if she was traveling around, there would be probably an opportunity for her to escape or to get word to someone. And because we're going to be at the 3-year mark next month, I just think that she's more secluded.
Right, and another thing that we were talking about the last show is, a lot of times when women get involved in this type of industry and are basically controlled by pimps. I mean, they are worthless pimps. But,
yeah.
They are brainwashed. Right. They get into this. They're brainwashed, and they're scared. I mean, they're absolutely scared to do anything other than what they tell them to do. When we had a long conversation about that. But real quick, just to backtrack real quick, can you once again state the incidents of what exactly happened when Jesse went missing, or what do you think may have happened?
Well, I think what happened was that Jesse was taken on a couple of trips and ended up being kept in Las Vegas on the last trip.
Okay.
And I think that Jesse was preparing to leave to come back to Canada to go to her stepsister's wedding. And I believe that when they realized this, they were probably worried that she wouldn't come back. So we ended up losing contact with her completely.
Okay.
It happened completely overnight,
Have you spoken? Sorry. Have you spoken with Peter Todd?
Yeah, I've spoken with him a few times. And when I went to Las Vegas the very first time with my friend Brenda, I made him come and visit me at the hotel we were staying at. We were calling him, and we even went out to the house out on Cornerstone and put posters up all over the fence and all over the garage door, and gave them out to their neighbors and knocked on doors for blocks around. And but he never called me back, and I talked to his brother. And I told his brother to please have him call me because we were getting ready to leave. We'd been down there already, for 1 week. And then the night before we were going to leave, we ran into a fellow from Texas who told us we should just tell him that we met a Texas Ranger who was going to help us out. He said if this guy has ever been to Texas, which apparently he has been, right, then just knowing that a Texas Ranger is going to be looking for him will probably scare him. And thought, well, we've tried everything else. So we went back to the hotel and we phoned and said, it doesn't matter if you don't want to come and meet us. We're coming back here in 5 weeks to meet up with a Texas Ranger who's going to help us. And lo and behold, 7 o'clock the next morning, I was getting a phone call saying from Peter saying he was downstairs and, could I come down and meet him? So something about that Texas Ranger thing really did spark a nerve in him. And so I did. I met him, and he's just a scrawny, skinny little punk. He's not even barely any taller than me, and I'm certainly not tall. And I just can't believe that he has the power that he has over some girls. But unfortunately, he knows how to use his power when he needs to. And I've also talked to Peter Todd on the phone several times. I'll phone him on Jesse's birthday or Christmas. I'll find out through people who, kind of help us with Jesse's case just by supporting us in our search. That Peter's got a new cell number, and these people are people that Peter thinks are, just friends. And they'll give me his new phone number, so I phone him. I remember one phone call when he said, "Who's this?" And I said, "It's Glendine." And he said, "Glendine who?" And I said, "Geez, Peter, how many Glendines do you know?" I said, "I'm Jessica's mother. How soon do you forget your missing fiancé with whose mother's name is Glendine?" He's like, "Oh, well, I just didn't know how you got my number." I said, "Well, I told you a long time ago." I said, "You know what? You're the only tie I have to my daughter who's missing. Please don't ever try to, lose me in this world because I'll find you." And so I think he kind of got a little freaked out that I got his number. But I have people who contact me and give me things like Peter's new phone number. Let me know that Peter, as soon as that thing came out on America's Most Wanted that Jesse's case was tied in with some serial killer, Peter Todd started venturing back out into the streets of Las Vegas. For a while there he was laying low. Suddenly now he feels safe because he thinks there's another reason, So, besides him, you know what I mean? Like, he's kind of happy. And now he feels safe going out on the streets again, which is not really sad. It's really sad because now, every girl on the streets of Las Vegas right now are vulnerable to the likes of him. And that's really scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, I know we've discussed before that the people that in the agency that he works with, the staff there have contacted you and actually called you first, actually,
Yeah.
and provide you with some information. But everything that you've been provided with does not seem to point to that she was murdered.
No, that's right. They thought that she'd been murdered just because of the fact that they knew of instances where Jessie had been threatened, or Jessie had been actually, one time she was cut by a knife by Trish, Peter's estranged wife at the time. And just recently I got a call from a girl who asked if anything had ever come of that incident, because she had been at the place where Jessie came in and her hand was actually bleeding. And this girl only overheard the conversation, but she physically witnessed the cut on Jessie's hand, which was apparently done by Trish Van Arsdale. And, and there's things like this that we have told the police for years, and people are still asking us now, almost 3 years later, why has nothing been done about this? Did you not tell the police? Why have they not called us? And I tell them, of course I told the police this, and if they have not called you, I don't know why.
Okay.
And I contact the police again and say, why are you not contacting these people with these tips, this information? Oh, it's just so frustrating.
Yeah, I agree with you. When we last spoke, Deborah had brought up some interesting points, saying that if let's just say she could possibly be in protective custody right now, because a lot of these organizations have been busted by the feds. There's a lot of new programs out. One of them being based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. That they're task force that are dedicated to stopping human trafficking. And human trafficking, and the majority of the time for women is to put them into prostitution type rings, anywhere around the world. But
yes.
Deborah, you had brought up some interesting stuff. You want to bring that up real fast again? I'm not sure if the listeners heard that last time.
You're speaking about the protective custody
Yeah,
angle?
yeah, and why and how that might affect why she's not being contacted at this point.
Well, the reason that I brought that up is because the mother of another young lady who's missing out of Vegas and is most likely a human trafficking victim, just like Jessie, Angela Marie Finger, her mom was told by some different people, I'm not exactly sure the source, that that was a huge possibility.
Okay.
That, you know, and that Jessie's case fit that profile also. She posted in the forum and she emailed with me, and I've spoken with this mom several times. And the thing is, if they're put into the, you know, protective custody, into the witness protection program, they can't be contacting their family or anything. And, you know, her thoughts are that it's great if they've done that, and, you know, that means that, you know, they're safe. But on the other hand, how are you ever going to know?
Yeah, like
you
we
know,
said, she wouldn't know. Well, and I think another issue, Glendine, might be the fact that you're not an American citizen, and so whatever laws that would apply to notification of spouse or family members might not apply to you, and they wouldn't want to expose whatever evidence that they might have against, let's say that this guy actually, you know, sold. I mean, they sell people. That's what they do, and he sure, you know, Peter Todd may have sold her. And I hate to say, I hope that happened, because to me that would mean, you know, like I said, these human traffickers, they're dealing in goods. They consider people goods for trade, and they don't want damaged goods. And I think that's what we talked about last time. We did also bring up that this case is Jesse's case on my website is number 570, and then also it is a team case that Gail and I had done together. Gail, I have that. I'm sure you probably don't remember this, but I actually have our work that we did together up on the website, and I've taken some notes. And I think it says some type bar room in Texas. Long. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Barham, Texas. Long. I can't even read my own writing. Port Boat. Do you remember Harrison, California, Gail?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Remember that? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, Gail. Go ahead. Can you bring that up? I don't remember too much, but you mentioned Harrison, California. I think that you and Glendine had spoken about that.
Yeah, you know, and I wasn't sure in how it exactly fit in when we talked about it, because originally I did, you know, when I saw the name, it made me think of somewhere else, and then
that's
that
okay.
was
That's
the
why
that came with it.
Okay. Go on.
And it led me to another area, which the funny thing is, I think there's the feeling that came with it was, and I thought about this the other day because it really bothered me. The feeling that came with it was there's someone there who understands and helps transport people in that area.
It's cutting off. I just.
Yeah, I think it's the Fun Brian's end. I think it's messed up.
Okay, I hear you guys just fine.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, Glenn, did you hear what she just said?
It cut off a couple times, and I can't say for sure I heard what it was.
Okay, she was saying possibly that somebody that was dealing with trafficking, so somebody that buys and sells people.
Well, definitely that's what these guys are involved in. I think Peter's probably a pimp who people bring girls to him, and then when he doesn't want them anymore, he just either gets someone to sell them off, or he sells them, or takes them somewhere else. Somebody once told me it's called being bumped. The girls are brought in and treated, like they're the main girl, and not the main girl, but the actual girlfriend, the fiance, and but they're nothing to these guys. And as soon as these guys feel that the girls are getting too comfortable, or they might get a little bit too bossy, or a little bit too sassy for the britches, maybe getting arrested too much, they're called being bumped. And when they get bumped, they're taken to places that are less nice. Not big beautiful houses like the place on Cornerstone Drive. Could be to another country. But it definitely is somewhere where they're not just allowed to come and go as they please. They're probably more under watch at that point, because at that point they're deemed to be trouble or possible trouble, anyways.
That makes perfect sense. They're getting used to their environment and stuff like that. You start losing control, and these guys are all about control. So it'd be easy enough to just ship them out like you're shipping a package. I know it's sad to say, but I mean it's true. I mean, you want to say, I've got the statistics right here. This stuff is intolerable. If this is just in the United States, imagine what goes on, outside our borders, outside, Canada, the United States, especially when the laws are not as strict as they are. Back to Peter Todd. Why isn't he in jail or prison right now? Do we know why?
Oh, good.
He hasn't been caught.
They say they don't have anybody that has that can testify against him. They need to have somebody that can actually say firsthand as to what they've seen him do, and testify in court in order for him to be arrested or jailed.
Well, I mean, but he's got to be doing something right then.
I have people who tell me stuff.
Right.
But they won't tell police,
Okay. One good thing though is he hasn't been arrested. Then generally, I think that means he's not capable of murder. And I certainly hope that's a fact. I mean, like we said before, these guys that deal
that's right. I mean, he has had.
Go ahead.
He did get arrested years ago for spousal abuse with Trish Van Arsdale, and he also, I was told at the beginning of this year, was arrested for some marijuana.
Okay.
Or some drug, marijuana or paraphernalia. So, but you're right about that. I mean, he's not, being arrested for some extremely violent crimes or with any kind of weapons or anything like that. That makes him sound, less capable of murder as well.
Murder is actually, I think statistics said only 1 in 100,000 people are actually capable of murdering somebody, and it's almost 1 in a million of being a child. There's some really bad people, and we might think this trafficking is really, really bad, but to them it's just a job, and it's a sick job, but it's a job. I want to say, if you guys really want to find out a lot of information, especially if you have teenage daughters or anybody that they plan on going to senior trips or whatever, please go to CIA.gov, and there's all kinds of statistics there about countries and stuff. Be very careful about letting your daughters, the daughters especially, sons too, but really the females are the ones that are really affected. Anywhere that you're not comfortable with, just say no, and go somewhere else. But we brought up before, she went missing from Las Vegas, which is a hub for human trafficking, a hub. The work that Gail and I have done together, I'm just looking at my notes here. These are some of the places: Las Vegas, Nevada; Boston, New York; Carson City, Nevada. Gail, you have a place in Texas. If this is true, I mean, because this is kind of an odd case. It does seem to match the Angela Marie Finger case, which is 633. We've linked them together. It's some of the same stuff. I just got all the cases up, guys. Sorry, I wasn't exactly prepared for all this. But there's a lot of stuff that Gail and I did that if you look, it seemed to match up. She's being moved all over the place. At least what we're seeing. And in a way, that's good. At least as far as the psychic ability stuff, it does seem to prove that she's alive. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, back to some of the cases that we think are human trafficking. Deborah sent me this list. First of all, Jesse, Angela Marie Finger, Natalie Holloway, and Amy Lyd Bradley. And I do know there's probably about 6 or 7 other cases that we discussed earlier that we will be linking together that we think could be actually human trafficking. I'm just reading some of these notes. Gail, do you have any more? Can you feel anything right now? I mean, do you get a sense of where she might be at this moment?
Well, I had said one time before, and I think she's gone back and forth. Actually, out of the country.
Okay, out of the country.
Mhm.
Okay. What about?
Which is something that bothered me. How do you chase people when they're being taken out of the country?
Okay. What about? Well, first of all, what about Mexico?
Exactly.
Well, sure, Mexico's tied in with this.
Okay.
But the thing I kept seeing is some small islands.
Okay, some small islands.
And I wasn't sure where it is, but they felt as if they were Spanish-speaking islands.
Okay. Spanish-speaking islands. What would that be?
I'm not really
I don't
good
know.
at that kind of stuff, and I don't have a map in front of me.
Well, Mexico has little islands and things.
Yeah. I can open up. Usually we have Kinsley with us, and she's got the maps, Google Earth open. In case, some Spanish islands. So I think that reiterates that we do need to get pictures down there, Glendine, of Jessie to the border,
yes.
Because if she's
especially if you're in the Spanish-speaking islands, I think you really need to have pictures of these people that we think may be involved in the human trafficking.
Right.
There are some teenagers that I have looked at over the last several years that I believe might be also involved in this.
Okay.
And they're missing. So, I think, and I hate to say this, because we don't like to think of parents who would do that either.
Okay.
And I think there's cases that eventually, I'm looking into where I really actually think the parents may have had something to do with selling their child.
Okay. There's an island there's Guadalupe. That is off the coast of Baja California, which would probably be definitely Spanish speaking. Gail, along those lines, when you mention the parents, I wanted to bring something up. I served in the Army for 12 years active, and when I was over in South Korea, we witnessed that on a daily basis, even as far as parents selling their kids into prostitution and slavery. It went on right outside the gates, and I kid you not. And I hate to say it, but at that time, this was 89, 90. Most of the clients were American citizens. And what happens is that in South Korea, first of all, prostitution is illegal. If, let's say, your parents owe some money, they owe some money, let's say, for a credit card or something like that, there's no bankruptcy. I can't say I don't know if there's no bankruptcy. You take your 16-year-old, 17-year-old, 18-year-old daughter and give her to Mama-san. Mama-san is basically a pimp, a what's the name for a brothel, madam, or whatever you call it. Thank you, Deborah.
Right.
Deborah's also getting some islands, Spanish-speaking islands, and they actually work off that debt by having sex with GIs until that debt is paid off. And what happens is, Mama-san's not stupid. She'll nickel and dime these people to death, so they can never pay off the debt. And you say, well, I fed you this, you owe me this much money, whatever. But the sad thing is that and I'm not sure if it goes on or not, it probably still is, the United States of America is funding human trafficking in a way, if you want to think about it like that. Sad, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on in South Korea. I know that for a fact. As far now,
the sad part is I know a lot about the Philippines, and a lot of people don't think of the Philippines, but there's a lot of stuff going on like that in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And even though some of them have come to this country, they don't, for some reason, they don't think anything of human trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
No.
If they're been in that environment,
right,
and they come over here, their mindset doesn't change.
Mm-hmm. Example, let's bring this up. Trenton Duckett's grandmother. Do you know what Trenton Duckett's grandmother said? Which she called her daughter that died. I don't really want to say the words on the air, but it wasn't very nice. They have a different. I'm not saying this is not prejudice or stereotyping. In different cultures, there's different ways of dealing with things. And from what I've seen in South Korea, they will not hesitate to pimp out their daughters. And it's sad in a way, but I mean that's a part of life, I guess.
Well, and my aunt was born in the Philippines, and she told me horror stories of things that went on in the Philippines. Things that we just don't comprehend here.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? The normal people
right.
don't comprehend here, and that it's common to sell your daughter. And I mean, when I say sell her, I don't mean to pay off your debt like you're talking about. I mean simply sell her.
Mm-hmm. It's
because they need money.
Real quick, Gail. Deborah sent me some information. Spanish-speaking islands. We have Cuba, Puerto Rico, and I believe the Canary Islands. Any of those ring a bell?
I lean towards the Canary Islands because I felt islands. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. If later off air, I'd like if you could possibly get with Glendine, see if we can get some more information we can post on the site on this one.
Okay.
Maybe that's why it's been.
This
case is really. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Very much a travel area.
Okay. Well, that would make perfect sense.
I mean, all this is happening around you, so it's hard to imagine that could be going on.
Right.
I know.
It's sad, but it's a fact of life that we have to face. But getting her.
It's got to be stopped, and it won't be stopped without talking about it and doing something about
right.
it. So it has to come to light like this.
And as we discussed last time, Glendine, Jesse's mom, has done absolutely everything right. She has talked with everybody, big, small, America's Most Wanted, detectives, the newspaper. She's done a website. She has friends working with her. She sends out a newsletter every single day, just about. I get it. She has done an outstanding job in for something that most of us would not even want to think about going through. I think I brought this up before. I lost my son Samuel. He was 4 at the time in Walmart for about 2 minutes, and my heart just sank. And that feeling is something I'll never forget. And just to imagine you're going to have to, Glendine, when we talk about this, I have no idea what you're going through, and I know it's really, really tough. But what you have done so far is just amazing, and we are very impressed. And Glendine doesn't just act for Jesse. She goes out there and she helps families of other missing people all the time, and she provides advice and everything else like that. And the information that she has, I mean, we wanted her to write a book. Want her to write some type of book, just, maybe like a handbook that you never want to have to get.
Yes, exactly.
Right, but it's exactly. But what you have learned, really can help other people. I think we spoke about this before when she's found, and I'm sure you'll continue to do that. Jessie's website is jessiefoster.ca, JESSIEFOSTER.ca, and the link is on the website. It was just redone. Looks good, Glendine. You have the 2009 stuff up there. Let me post a picture right here. This is Jessie right here. Pictures know no borders. I wanted to say that a picture anywhere, it doesn't matter what language is in. So I mean, if she is possibly, we're going to look into this tonight. If she's in Cuba, the Canary Islands or whatever, somebody's going to see her picture. Be wary that her hair color, hairstyle might change, but her face will look the same.
That's right.
And sadly, if let's say, Jessie's a beautiful girl. If she wasn't, she might not be in the situation. So once again, this is our society. It's it's what happens. And it's very sad. I'm very sorry, for you. But I think that we really, I know we're doing everything we can to find her. But I think that she will come home.
I do too. Thank you.
And I'd love to have you guys come on the show together and talk about. Well, I don't know if you don't want to talk about everything that happened, but
no, but definitely she would have some information to help people. I know that for a fact. I don't know that at all.
Go ahead,
It certainly would give encouragement to others.
It sure
would. You know what I mean? To
yes.
Keep going, keep looking for the loved ones, and don't give up.
No, you
sometimes
can't
you
give up.
just run out of the strength to keep the fight up.
Well, I think the fight of looking for Jessie, trying to access its own strength, that kind of reverberates back into me, I guess you could say, because I couldn't face getting up every day if I knew that nobody was talking about her, looking for her, passing her information along, caring, If I didn't think anybody cared, I just couldn't do it. So, all these things that I do, as much as, I do for Jesse, I also do in a way to help me cope with what's happening. Like people say all the time, I can't imagine what you're going through. And when they say that, it makes me realize that I go through it, but it's not as if I can imagine what it's like. It's too scary if I try to go that deep. I just try to stay on the surface of the search. If I go too deep in this, I come up with too many scenarios that I don't want to have to think about. So this kind of keeps me busy, keeping on the computer and doing the posts and sending out the messages that I do. And I certainly don't mind when somebody calls me and says, somebody is wondering if you might want to talk to them because they don't know what to do with their daughter being missing. And I always tell them, well, I don't think I can be of any help, but I can certainly be somebody that they know understands,
Well, you're definitely of help. You might not think that, but what I'm saying is the information that you know, I mean, it just how they have support groups for everything, including, it's something that you would know, I wouldn't know. I could say to somebody, I know how you feel, but that's not true. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's like asking a black person, what do you think about racism? Well, I don't know. I've never experienced hate like that. You have to be in your shoes to actually experience that, and to know that, and to learn. And we talked about, maybe we could get something together just for let's say a forum or a group just for families of missing loved ones. For them only. That's how a lot of these groups work. Everybody else keep out. Seriously. I mean, it's. I think that dealing with something like this, I think that it's really important that you share which and helping others always helps you in the long run.
There's not groups where people can get support from people, online from all over the world, because that's where our people are going missing from, is all over the world. Actually, there's probably, if I did miss any, but I really only can think of 3 people that I know of who are either missing or have a missing loved one in the family in the city I live in, which has about 85,000 people. And that's, of course, my daughter Jessie. That's my friend Holly and her boyfriend Garrett. Garrett's son Valor is a victim of a parental abduction. And then there's this girl who, 15 or 17, 18 years ago, Sherry McLaughlin, she went missing here in Kamloops, and it was absolutely unheard of back then. And she's still missing. Her father's a police officer. She was riding her bicycle. It was late at night. She was on a phone with somebody. 10 minutes later, her bike was in the middle of the road, having been run over by a car, and she's never been found since. Those things, so in 20 years, there's 3 different stories, and one of them didn't even happen in Kamloops. So we can't have a support group here. We need to have groups that meet, like in your forums, and different forums online as well. It doesn't matter where it is. If you can get to groups that have families with missing loved ones, and you have a family member missing, you need to get to them. Because, you just can't do it on your own. You honestly can't.
Right. There's a lot of people that have, let's say, Adam Walsh, and there's a couple other people that actually have taken their pain and stuff and put it to good use. And everybody's different. Everybody's different. There are some cases where you think that the family just doesn't care. Why aren't they doing all this? Why can't we see it? And I don't know why. I don't know why, guys. I mean, but why people act a different way. But I wish everybody was like Glendine. I'm just completely 100% dedicated, and she doesn't care what avenues she's going to get the word out. I mean, she's doing our show. I mean, she'll do anything to get the word out. And even with America's Most Wanted, the way it was portrayed as her possibly being deceased. Either way, it's getting her picture out there, and that's the most important thing, is to get her picture out there.
That's right. And that's right. And I mean, even though myself and many people think Jesse's alive, only Jesse and God right now know him. And if Jesse's alive, there are a few other people, I'm sure, saying if she's not. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know. I pray she's alive. I believe she's alive. I hope she's alive. But I honestly don't know anything for sure, So I just go in that way. I just do what needs to be done. In my opinion, if Jessie is alive, not searching for her is an injustice that runs deep. You can't be a missing person and have no one looking for you. You can't. My husband Jim and I were just talking about that tonight. There was a cold case file on American Justice shows, or one of those shows on A&E, and this woman never gave up on her missing friend, never gave up, and eventually the crime was solved. She had been murdered and the crime was solved, and Jim just said it's going to be a long road. It's already been a long road. Just don't give up. There's always one person in a family, I think, that hangs on, and sometimes even to the dismay or to the to the lack of a lot of things that get lost in the shuffles of the other family members when one family member chooses to focus so firmly on this one person. But the odd time that my kids or Jim complain to me about maybe not giving enough of myself to them, my answers are simple, and the understanding really comes quick from them. I look at them and I say, guess what? I'm looking at you. You're looking at me. You're warm under my roof. You're fed. You're fine. And now I'm going to go back to looking for Jessie.
Right.
If they really need me, if there's something really wrong, I'm here. And they can come in at any moment and interrupt what I'm doing, because it's not like I yell and scream if anybody interrupts me. I just say, what in the world could be more important to you when you're safe and fine? What could be more important to you than your mom wanting to find your sister? So they understand it, and I don't have to remind them too often, especially now that two of my kids are moms.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about a wake-up call. When you have a child, you suddenly realize, that's why mom's not giving up.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. One thing, we talked about, all the work that you've done, the reports that have been done on Jessie. That's fine and dandy, but the chances of Jessie actually seeing that could be very low. Because if she is being sheltered, if she is being protected, this guy or whatever is in charge of her is not going to let her watch TV or even or whatever. Right. Well, the good thing about this is that the internet is getting so available all over the place. The internet is a wonderful tool to help find people. So all this time, Jessie might not even think that you're looking for her.
That's right, and that's why. I'm not going to give up, and that's probably one of the reasons why. She's going to know. She's going to know, that we didn't give up, and it's going to take as long as it takes to find her. But when we do find her, she's always going to know. But I still think that, just like in my heart I feel Jessie's alive, I'm sure that in Jessie's heart she feels that we're not just forgetting that she ever existed. I'm sure she knows that we're not going to give up looking for her.
Well, I agree with that. But if she doesn't have access, let's say to the internet right now or whatever, she's not going to see all the work that that you've put into this.
Well, that's right.
But if she does, she'll see this, and maybe we talked about this before. A lot of times when you get into an industry like this, you don't want to come home for a lot of different reasons. You're ashamed. You don't want to be. You don't want to. Face the facts or face what you think you're going to be coming home to. Maybe she thinks that you don't want her back. I might seriously doubt that, but it does cross people's minds, especially if they have her hooked on drugs.
Would.
Go ahead.
But you know what? How I think about that is that that I think that she knows that we believe that she didn't just decide to go down there and do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and by doing this, I mean, you know, being a prostitute in Las Vegas. So I think that, I don't think that there's much of a chance that she's afraid or ashamed of what we're going to think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think she knows that what happened to her was something that, you know, happened to her.
Okay.
And, you know, that's a big difference. That is really a big difference. You know, her knowing that we're not going to believe that this was something she had a choice to. And so I'm hoping anyways that, you know, her knowing that would keep her from being afraid to call.
Okay.
You know, and then there's always this time factor, you know, Brian, it's been almost 3 years. There's got to be a point in somebody's life where they think, well, you know, it may have been 3 years, 5 years, 25 years. I think that, you know, they're just going to want to hear from me. So, you know, it's gone beyond her being afraid of our reaction. You know, 3 years, it's to the point where, you know, obviously people just need to know. And, you know, my kids weren't raised, you know, like idiots. I'm not trying to say that in a mean way. My kids were raised very wisely. I thought with good hearts. I'm sure they all have good hearts. That's the one thing I know about my kids. The love that they have for each other, for me, for themselves, has never been something that I've questioned. So, you know, knowing how much that Jessie loves us and how close she is with her sisters, you know, there's nothing that she's afraid of that is going to outweigh that.
Okay. So, you know, Jessie, if like I said before, if you're listening, you know, please do whatever it takes to get out of the situation that you're in. Use something to contact your mom. I mean, be safe about it. But, you know, your mom loves you, and she's doing everything that she can to find you. You know, so if you do get internet access or something like that, and you know, just Google your name. You know, you're number one for a reason, okay? Because of all the work that Glendine's put in, and she loves you. So, any way that you can do it, that's what I'm saying. I realize maybe the situation that you're in. Any way that you can possibly do it, you know, at least let her know that you're safe.
Yes.
Thank you, Glendine.
That's all we need.
Thank you, Gail. I know you and Glendine have been friends for a long time. And did you want to say anything before we close here? Or?
You talking about me?
Yeah, I just said you might not be able to hear me. I said you guys have been friends for a long time. And did you want to say anything, or I'm already over the 45 minutes, so it's okay. Either we have it or not.
Well, you know, I just want to tell Glendine, keep up the work that she's doing, and she does a lot of help for others. And you know, I do believe that these islands are connected to what's going on, especially to a lot of traffic.
Yeah. Deborah's actually working on that right now.
And I think people aren't realizing that those Canary Islands do have a lot of this connected. They really do.
Yes.
It seems like such a wonderful place to go as far as tourism. And we don't really know the inner workings.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that we really need to dive into. We need to find out what are some of the inner workings and what goes on. We're talking about not the tourists, we're talking about people who actually live there.
Yes.
You know, those are the ones that
because they're the ones, yeah.
You know, I know America or the United States is a different country to you, Glendine, but I mean, even the United States is not as safe as we'd like to have it.
No.
You know, thus you see. I mean, it is. You know, Las Vegas is a dangerous place, but so's any city in the United States.
It is. Yeah. Las Vegas is probably a little more dangerous, and I don't mean more crime and more people committing crime. I think it's more dangerous because it's been accepted as Sin City, therefore a lot of the crimes are looked at as nothing, and a lot of the people committing them get away with them because, you know what, it's Sin City.
Prostitution is illegal. Prostitution is illegal in Las Vegas, Nevada. There's only one county in the entire state. And the laws are strict.
As many people as we have right here in our own country that do awful things, we have so many more foreigners that come into our country because in a sense, we've allowed this market to happen. We shut our eyes to it.
It hasn't been
and we allow
yes,
this to happen. So they're doing this wonderful business, for them. They're doing this wonderful business, makes them a lot of money. And we're closing our eyes to it. Because we don't want to think it happens in our country. We don't want to see it. We don't want to know it.
And it happens at all levels. I mean, if you watch the news lately, there was this madam who just all of a sudden committed suicide, which I don't believe. And a lot of her clientele were pretty high up in the United States political system. So I mean, it goes on at all levels. I wouldn't put it past Bush, but he's gone.
But I mean, we close our eyes to it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Well, we do. Yeah, we close our eyes to it. And like I mentioned with the military, I mean, this is the United States government backing prostitution and child, and not child. They're legal adults, but prostitution and human trafficking. Because if the demand wasn't there, they wouldn't be trafficked. Okay, they have to have a demand before you traffic anybody. But what I think,
and they know it. They know what's going on. They let it go.
Like I said, there are laws in Nevada that are pretty strict, and I guess that they don't, because I was there. I've been there once or twice, and I've seen people out on the street handing out flyers with girls on them. Matter of fact, I was with my wife, and some guy handed me a flyer with girls on it. Okay, what? And I looked at it. I mean, okay. So yeah, I think you're right. Maybe we should, maybe they need to start, enforcing some of these laws.
Well, yeah, you say you have tough laws, but what about enforcing it?
The
tough laws are fantastic. If we don't enforce them, what good are they?
Glendine, do you think that Peter Todd knows what happened to Jesse?
Oh yes, I'm positive. I mean, I have no proof.
How are we gonna make this? How's this guy gonna
believe it?
How do we make this guy talk? What does it take? I mean.
Well, the one thing that I was thinking would be a good thing is if he, from what I understand, he's been arrested for something. It would be nice for him to be so scared of going to jail that maybe he would just offer up some information about Jesse, because, pretty well that's the only thing that he would have that I would hope that anybody would have any interest in knowing.
Okay.
And then if that's the case, trade him off, give him a light sentence, do whatever. Maybe just tell him that he won't get sent out of the country for everything he's done in all the years he's lived there. If he tells them this. It doesn't make the U.S. look very good. I mean, the U.S. is trying to make Aruba just look like this piece of crap, country, because they let a young girl go there and go missing. Hello, you don't make the same stink about it when someone goes.
Natalie Holloway. Yeah, you're right. I haven't looked at that aspect. We do put a lot of blame on the Reuben police and stuff. And it's a different case.
They're not taking the blame on this one.
Yeah, well, you're right. And as far as statistics of people going missing in Aruba, I don't know. I don't think it's very high. I do know.
No, I would think not either, because.
What I would say.
It's just not something thought of.
But for human trafficking, if you have kids, mainly this really pertains to teenage girls, young women, going on senior trips, going to places that you're not familiar with. The parents need to know where they're at all times, especially out of the country. And I do know a lot of senior trips go out of the country. Please stay out of Portugal.
Portugal. I heard horror stories even about Japan, just so everybody knows. Everybody thinks there too is another safe place.
Well, Gail, you've been to Japan.
Yeah, well, when I was in Japan, I heard some horror stories from people that were there actually from Germany, and that's something we spoke about. And at the time, Tamara was 18 years old. And, she wanted to go walking around Tokyo. And, while I was working. And I told her, God, no, you're not going to. You're not going out of my sight. You'll wait, and when I'm done working, I'll walk with you. Because you don't know, somebody could stop you. We have a language barrier to start with. And, on top of it, we're in a very huge city. there's all kinds of things that we're unaware of in Japan to start with, in a strange country, and before you know it, you could be in a mess. And, not that I could, change the language barrier, but definitely I could be impressed with the feeling or what's going on if we're talking with someone or walking around the city. And, less likely, and I hate to say this, she's with some old woman like me, they're going to stay away from her. She's not a target.
Right. Now they're looking for them with their friends. They're looking for with their peers. And it's disgusting, but it's a trade. It's human. It's trafficking. I mean, it's just like a product, and they could care less about their feelings, or their family, or their whatever. That's
you
it.
don't know how many girls
feelings or family.
and mothers. You don't know how many people I've warned that were going overseas. I said, don't let your sons, daughters, whatever, out of your sight. They do not go party by themselves, go to a bar, go anywhere, unless you're there attached to them. Sorry you can't have freedom, but this is just the way it is. Because, when you're that age, you are a target. You're very much a target, and if someone's there who is, in that walk of life, and they don't see you with anyone, they're gonna be looking at you. Like I said, here she is, this old woman. They're going, oh, forget this one. I find me your target. So maybe I sounded like a terrible mother, but I said, you're not going to be alone here. Sorry,
yes.
That's not happening. I know you're 18 and you can make decisions, you can do things, but we're in another country, and it's not safe.
Exactly.
It's just not safe for me to take my eyes off.
If you're not familiar or comfortable with it, guys, there's a movie out now called Taken. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see it. Be wary of everything. If you're uncomfortable with it, don't let them go. They might hate you. Don't let them go.
And don't take a drink even of water.
Yes.
If it doesn't come in a steel bottle.
One more thing. The internet, like I said, it's getting huge, okay? Modeling agencies. This is what a lot of times we've been studying this. They pose as modeling agencies. They say, come on in. You look so beautiful. You can go for this photo shoot. We're going to pay you. You just need to come over here and do that. No. Okay, modeling agencies, most of them, you have to go to them. Okay? They're not out looking for you. Okay? Pedophiles, freaks, and traffickers are out looking for you. And this I'm talking to teenagers and young adults. If it's too good to be true, don't do it. And parents are all into this, and they say, "Oh, my kid's so beautiful." Put him out there on TV and stuff like that. Back to another case, John Benet Ramsey. I don't think she'd be in a situation. What happened to her if she wasn't put in the celebrity status or whatever she was? I mean, look. Did you see the pictures of the girl? And how old is she?
Yeah.
You see how old? I mean, compared to her age. I'm just saying.
Right.
And I realize that I'm nothing against modeling agencies and stuff like that, but some of the stuff on the internet is evil. Most of it, I think, is probably evil. And there's back doors. There's all kinds of things. I've talked with the detectives and the people that work posing as children in chat rooms to bust these freaks. They use modeling agencies. They do all kinds of things. They want, especially with the internet now, they want you on the internet, and to make money, because there's freaks out there that'll pay for it. That said, that said, pictures out there, like I said, pictures have no words. Those pictures, people will see that. If somebody sees a picture, please, and you think it's somebody that's missing on our site or any site, report them to the cops. There's an FBI tip line. There's actually a cyber tip line that you can contact. I think Deborah just sent me something too. Okay. Thank you, Bundy. You can report this stuff. Just Google. I think it's FBI.gov. You can go to that. If you see a picture of something, they will look into it. Trust me, we've done this before. We had one modeling agency that had a picture of a girl that looked just like somebody who was missing in another country with the same exact name. Well, we looked into it, we investigated it, and apparently, now this is what we were told, modeling agencies, so they checked with the parents, and this was not that person. But you see, it's one of the cases that we have. But I'm telling you, since they're a product, they want to expose their product, in that, I think that's another good way of finding them. It's a sick way of finding them, but
That's right. Yeah.
But one thing is they
know where to look, and
right.
They put it where these people look.
There are child modeling agencies, and you'll see these are legal sites, and I'll tell you what, most of them are based from Florida and California. There are some child sites that I've seen. They're child modeling sites. Okay, they show pictures of girls 6, 7, 8 in outfits and positions or whatever that is completely inappropriate, but yet it's legal. Okay, what normal guy would want to go see that? Okay, so you know what they're doing.
Exactly.
They're putting him in danger, and I blame the parents too, because they need the parental permission. A 6-year-old does not need to be on modeling clothes or modeling swimsuits, let's say.
Makeup on and everything.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm just saying there's probably nothing wrong with modeling and beauty contests and all that, but use your common sense. Look at some of these pictures. But that said, seeing sites like this, if somebody does see them because they are illegal, you can look for them for missing people. Because a lot of times, most parents in their right mind would not allow their kids to do that. So that might mean that maybe look into the parents. Deborah, I know you've been doing a lot of research on this case. What additional information did you want to put out as far as human trafficking?
Well, as far as human trafficking, something that I discovered in my own home. I have 3 children in their upper teens, girl, boy, girl, ranging from 16 to 19. No one had heard of human trafficking, much less the definition. They knew absolutely nothing. I spoke with my children and their friends, and I was informing, educating, if you will, 16, 17, 18, and 19-year-olds of what human trafficking was and a new term for them to learn. And I fully believe that, we've talked about it before, where, when the children come from good families, when they're raised well. I'm not saying I'm the best parent on the planet. I think I'm a good parent, and I do the best job I can. But a lot of these kids are more naive, and I know in discussion with you, Glendine, Jessie fits that profile. More on the innocent side, a good girl, if you will. And, their appearances, that type of thing. And if we educate more, we need to talk to our children, grandchildren, our brothers, sisters, parents, cousins. We need to talk about human trafficking more to everyone, so people understand what it is, because there are a lot of people, not just the young ones either, that don't know that it's a problem or don't even know what it is. And if they knew more, I think we could prevent a lot of it. So please talk to everybody about this. And I know when we were working, Gail, you'll remember this because you brought this up. We were working on Angela Marie Finger's case, and we were on a conference call, and that was also a radio show. And you stated, now we know that in the age bracket that I just spoke of with my children and their friends, they spend a lot of time on Facebook and MySpace. You brought up, Gail, that is a big way that they're getting them, and that we don't even know how much of it's really going on, because it's that big of a problem that we're not even aware that some of these are being taken that way into trafficking.
As old as Tamara was, she, and is now, she's been approached by questionable, very questionable activity on MySpace. And so that says, okay, she's 21 years old now. What about these preteens that are out here being approached on MySpace, Facebook, and all these things? And I hate to knock anything, because it's a great way to communicate and a great way to put things out there. I use MySpace and Facebook myself, but it's also a pedophile hangout.
Yes, it is, and actually, it truly is. And even though, even my youngest daughter did not know anything about it, they're very careful for the most part. I'm sure more careful now, but, they call them, actually, people that they don't know, they'll call them a creeper. And they don't add anybody they don't know, but, I think that parents as a whole, and anyone, friends, family, anyone, need to educate and talk more about it to make sure, because obviously we have young ladies, and I'm sure some young men too, teenage boys, whatever, it's also a problem there, that are actually being taken in by this, like the offers of modeling. And they just don't understand that it's really not going to happen, that it doesn't work that way.
And they prey on some of these kids that are troubled too.
Yes.
And
right.
I found that out. They prey on some of the troubled kids. On MySpace, kids vent. it's a venting place for the young ones. And they're putting their feelings basically right out there for everyone to see. Which, that's nice and it's bad because you've got all these pedophiles and creeps reading this stuff, and then they can promising them to take them away from their bad situation, promising them to give them money, promising, you know what I mean, all the things these kids want to hear, and they're not old enough mentally to understand that that's not going to happen. You know what I mean? They begin to believe it as this person works their way into their good graces. My granddaughter's 13, and she's had questionable people on MySpace offering her things, saying, and you know, of course, she knows she's well educated about it. But what about those kids that children?
Right.
Those are the ones
to be
that
quite
are
honest,
being sucked into this.
in all honesty,
and truthfully, I don't know how they stop it. I don't know how they're going to stop it.
I would not have been mine with my children and their friends if it had not been for finding Brian's website to begin with and then learning more about Jesse's case and talking with Glendine. It would not have been something that I was really thinking about, because I think a lot of people think that doesn't happen to them or their kids are near them. And, you know, how many people just wouldn't think of it like I wouldn't have?
I think maybe I wouldn't have, except for when I was very young and just turned a teenager. I was actually approached by a friend's supposed uncle, and wanted us to go off and kept trying to convince us to go off and modeling and doing things and running off with him. And you know, as a kid, I was, you know, it all sounds good, and then, you know, I sit there thinking, this doesn't sound right. And I went to my mother, and I told her, well, come to find out, the guy had, you know, had been in jail several times for this stuff, and he ended up back in jail. He raped a girl. So these things are out there. Whether we want to think about it or not, it's in your own neighborhood. It's on Facebook. It's on MySpace. If you don't educate your children, you know, we're not trying to scare our kids of everything, but they have to be educated about what's out there. And I think anytime we're as parents, we hide these things, then we open the situation up to a greater possibility of it happening to our children. And I certainly don't want my kids or my grandkids, you know, scared of everything. But I want them to be wise to the world and what goes on around them. And I think that's something that cases like, you know, Glendine's daughter here has made people much more aware of. And I think she's done a good job of getting the word out there and making more and more parents aware of situations and things that can happen. I just wish a few more parents with the preteens and teens would also make their kids aware.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
Gail,
Well,
you
Canada's starting to educate people on it. So.
Something that scares me, Gail, with teenagers, you were very fortunate that you felt comfortable talking to your mom after you were approached. Now,
right.
You know, with my kids at the ages that they are, I know a lot of teenagers, and a big thing for teenagers is to hide things from their parents. They don't feel comfortable talking to their parents. If you think about that scenario, there's a lot of teens that are never going to bring that up to their parents. And
Yeah,
I think,
very sad.
well,
maybe they can bring it up to another adult, though.
POS, parent over shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you're typing POS on the computer, they're telling their friends that. There's a whole lingo they've got for a computer.
Yeah, you know, it's a shame because, you know, and Brian knows, you know, I might have what some people consider a strange relationship with Tamara. And I have the same relationship with my older daughter. You know, I'm very much their parent, but I would say probably because I'm not a real strict parent. I'm a liberal parent in many ways, but yet I'm a strict parent. And I haven't put a lot of what I call boundaries in their life, saying you can't do this, you absolutely cannot do this, you can't, you know what I mean? But they know when I do say it, there's a darn good reason why I'm saying it. And I let them go out and experience things and do things. But I think I realized something, and like my oldest daughter said, she came to the same conclusion. Sometimes the more you try to keep them tied down, the further they try to run.
Oh, they totally do.
Yes, and sometimes if you just step back and examine more, keep an eye on things, and say less to some extent, they have a tendency to come right back around and talk to you.
Yeah. Well, you can never have too much information about what they're doing or where they're at. You say no when you say no to a teenager, I see it happen all the time because of my children's friends. When they're told no, they do it anyway, and they sneak behind a parent's back, and then that parent does not know where their child is or what their child's doing. We've taken the stance that, not as many boundaries, not using the word no as much, because I would rather know exactly what they're doing and exactly where they're at than not know. Whether I like it or not,
absolutely.
At least I know what's going on, and you can never have too much information. And sometimes in conversation,
you sound like that. You sound like that, Doug. I'm a liberal parent, but I'm still a strict parent. But I'm liberal in the viewpoints and things that I let them experience. There's things that they're going to want to do, and I'd rather have them do it, and I know about it, than to go do something behind my back, and because of that situation, they're injured or kidnapped.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, yes.
I know there's parties that my kids asked me if they could go to. I knew there was going to be drinking there. I knew there was going to be drugs there. But I also trusted them. As they went out the door, I said, remind you, I trust you. Please don't break those bonds
now,
of
Gail,
trust.
you said that you have kind of a different relationship with your daughter. I beg to differ. You trust your daughter, and from what I've seen, your daughter, you trust her, and that said, she will do what's right. And when I've met her, so that's good. A lot of people, think that they can trust your kids, but do they? But do they really? That's what I'm trying to say. Because you have to set rules and boundaries, but you also have to, let them do the things that they like. And speaking of that, Glendine has just sent me a Skype. Glendine, I'm posting all your links that you're sending on Jesse's page too. One of them mentions a site similar to what we're talking on right now. What we're talking on right now, Ustream.tv, is another hangout for pedophiles. There are, we've seen it. Deborah's seen it. We actually tried to bust some of this stuff. Justin TV, Ustream.tv, and all of them. They might ban me for saying this, but they need to they need to stand up and listen and look at who's chatting on there. Because I've seen some stuff on there. There are 16-year-old girls, 15-year-old girls talking to guys all over the world, without knowing what
Well, Brian, do you remember
we had 12-year-old girls I noticed? It was awful.
Yeah. Do you remember when we first met and I talked to you about Tamara calling these pedophiles would get a hold of her, and she would give out her cell phone number, and she'd end up, sending them out to the corner and busting them.
Well, that's good.
They were actually online, getting a hold of her, and Tamara had been done this since she was about 14, 15 years old, busting guys.
But what I'm saying is, the media we're talking on right now, in the streaming video. I mean, anybody with a laptop now. These girls get laptops. They turn it on. There's people watching them. Okay, and they don't have enough street smarts or experience in life to know exactly what kind of danger that they're in, because they're not talking to people their own age. You can tell. Okay, and it's disgusting, and it's the responsibility of Ustream and Justin TV and Blog TV and all the other new ones, because this is going to be a big thing, I guarantee it, need to take more responsibility and say, hey, no. You know, if you're under the age of 16 or whatever, you cannot broadcast unless it's about, you know, certain topics and it needs to be monitored. But really, it all comes back to the parents. But you know, that said, you can't.
Well, I was on Justin TV and I saw some very, very explicit things done by a girl that was only about 13 years old.
Now that is illegal. Okay, you know, the thing is that is illegal. There should be, and there are laws now. I think it's the age of 13 and under that that should. I'm not exactly sure what the laws are, but I do know that when setting up message boards and something like that, people the age of 13 and under aren't really supposed to participate in something like that. But what Justin TV...
Yeah, but when they're on their webcam like that, where are the parents?
I don't know. But we can say that all day. Yeah.
I've won, so only they didn't catch on.
Right, but the thing is,
these young girls were screaming, and the parents came in and didn't even realize it.
Yes. I believe, was it you, Deborah, that said, you know, we're calling the police on you or something like that?
Yeah, well, these girls were giving out their cell phone numbers. They were giving out their location. We isolated them to a specific town in Iowa, and it was horrible. And I looked at it and I was like, they're busted. Well, parent walked in the room, and we're talking it's in the wee hours of the morning, and these young girls were putting themselves out there in inappropriate manners to what was quite obviously grown men. And
no, there's no doubt that was.
Realized they were.
And one of the things that they're not thinking about is when you're broadcasting, everybody can see not only you, but what's around you, okay? They see pictures, they see postcards, they see whatever that can maybe identify where you're at. And if you look around your house, there's a lot of things that can identify where you're at. That's why it's so dangerous.
Well, the worst part is most of those girls that I was seeing was putting out where they were at and didn't care.
Right.
Okay.
They will get, I mean, what I'm saying is, in not all of them, I'm just saying they are in danger. When you're doing something like that, they are definitely, if you don't know who you're talking to, they're in danger. 16-year-old girls should be talking to 16-year-old boys. Okay? Simple as that. And you can blame the parents, but if the parents aren't listening, then we have to do something. You know, I mean, they're children. Obviously, the parents aren't doing something, then it's up to the internet service provider or somebody that would have to step in and say, hey, start monitoring these channels. You know, DirecTV can sit there. There's a guy that monitors all 1,000 channels or whatever. Well, do the same thing with, you know, Justin TV or whatever you do.
Well, I will say one thing. I think a lot of parents, even though we don't like to do this, you are responsible if you have a computer in your home to check the history.
Exactly. Yes.
Because.
And that's not. I don't consider that spying. Right.
I think that, you know, people say, well, I don't want to do that to my child. If you suspect or you think anything could be putting your child in danger, check the history on your computer. If it's erased or deleted, then you need to be questioning your child why they're deleting or erasing the history on that computer.
There are programs, too, that are... There's something called Net Nanny, and there's a lot of other programs. Actually, you can go to the... I think it's Department of Homeland Security, and they actually have free stuff that you might be able to download.
Well, most companies you get your internet from provide you with free security. I know I work for Charter Communications, which I might be in Canada, but I work for an American internet provider, and they provide free security. One of them is parental controls, and that blocks all kinds of things. It even stops them from being allowed to delete the history. So there are things that...
Okay, yeah, I think...
Kids do those things, and I think some parents forget to check those things.
Yes, they do.
Mark my words, Ustream, Justin TV and all that are going to go down if they don't start monitoring this, because what's going to happen is they're going to get sued, okay? They're going to get sued because some kid's going to get killed, okay? Raped, abducted, and they're going to blame Ustream. So they really need to start monitoring this stuff, because then they're going to go down. And these are business for-profit companies. They're going to go down. And I guarantee in the future that we're going to see a lot more of this, because these are really getting popular right now. You know, with the high-speed internet now, and everybody's got a webcam. You know, most of them are built right into your laptop. Sometimes they're on, you don't even know it.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was just gonna say. The built-in ones sometimes you don't even know they're there.
Right.
And
everything
even
that
if you don't think you're on, you are.
And it's, like I said, it's just not your face. It's everything in the background they can see. If somebody really wanted to find you, they can do it. Okay? Finding somebody by an IP address is almost impossible. You cannot get an exact location unless you know who they are and where they live. You actually have to go to the internet service provider, and they have to. What I'm saying is just an IP address will just give you a city, and most of the time that's not even right. But if you're broadcasting, if your children are broadcast, first of all, they shouldn't be broadcasting unless it's unless it's with their peers or something like that. Everything that's on that camera, okay, is saved. They can just back it up frame by frame and figure out. They can look at stuff, whatever. They can figure out where you are.
Well,
another
the
thing
thing is,
that
a lot of kids are into different things now, and I realize that involving the computer. I mean, my son too. He's a DJ, and though he's 15, he works for a couple of record companies, and doing mixing and doing different things. But I still monitor. He talks to people all over the world. Because of his work, but I'm still very involved with what is he doing, who are you talking to, please don't share information with that person, you don't know them well enough, all those types of things. I'm not stopping him from communicating because it's the people he works with, and he's doing mixing with and doing other things, but I'm also very careful to make sure that he's not giving out his personal information where anybody would know where he is or where we are. And so I'm not stopping him. So but I am monitoring, and I talk to him about it. Saying reminding him there's reasons why we don't want to you don't know this person very well, and even though they were recommended by another person, that person didn't know them. In a personal way. So, the freedom out there is great to learn and to work, and I think the computer is a wonderful tool, but as parents, we really have to, keep an eye on what they're doing, who they're talking to. Like I said, I don't put my foot down and say you can't talk to others in other countries or this or that, but I monitor and we talk about it. What did they say, and I look at the logs and I examine some of them, if I think it's, my son talks to, people that are 30, 40 years old. I have to be careful and I have to watch that. Because that 30 or 40-year-old might be into music, but they also might be into children as well. He may not be aware of that fully, with a 15-year-old mind, but I have to be. So, that's one of those things that I do keep an eye on. I talk to him. I say, I realize that this person, how old is he? He'll say, well, Mom, he's, 32 years old. I said, okay, does he, this is anything inappropriate? And I remind him, even though, I shouldn't have to, but I do because, he forgets, to think about things, and I told him, I said, I realize that language is out there, you're 15 years old and things are going to happen, but if, he says something inappropriate, do not hesitate to call me, do not hesitate to tell him, that's inappropriate, okay guys, I'm 15. And he said to me one day, he goes, I told this guy, he says he kept cussing and cussing and cussing, and he was saying stuff, and they were on, they have different programs on Skype, and, and I heard my son say, excuse me, but I don't talk like that. And I walked in and said, anything you want to say? He goes, yeah, he just kept cussing. And I told him, I don't talk like that. I'm only 15. And then even though we were discussing music, he needed to refrain from his language.
Another statistic: 85% of children, or children 16 and under, have been propositioned once or more on the internet, as far as sexual whatever goes. 85%.
Well, another way to help your children in their computer usage and keeping them safe is to make sure that computers are used in public areas of the home.
Yes, that's a very good idea.
They shouldn't be sitting in their bedroom, door closed, on their computers. If you have them in the public area, and actually that's why they invented all of their lingo of parent over shoulder, POS and all of that, because a lot of parents make sure that they're used in public areas.
Yeah. Yeah, and like even in schools and stuff, they do it to just keep track, and they watch for each other. Like someone else could be that, and the other kids know when someone's coming.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. I know we went an hour and a half, but we got some good information out. Human trafficking is a very, very serious deal. It happens all the time. Like we said, approximately 17,500 people in the United States alone are trafficked. We don't have the figures for outside of the country, but I'm sure it's much higher. And most of this information can be obtained by going to CIA.gov. There's also first of all, there's a hotline, but there's a website, humantrafficking.org, and that has a lot of the information I have right here. Please check it out, because if you have children that are leaving the country, you need to see some of the stuff that's in here. Just because their friends are going doesn't mean that your kids have to go. You can say, hey, we'll do something else, because it's very, very serious, and it's getting worse and worse. And with the internet out there, it's a brand new market to pimp these children on the internet. And there's people that are paying a lot of money for it. And there's one country I know of, Russia, where it is legal for to have children on the internet naked. Pornography, child pornography is legal in Russia. There's no laws pertaining to it. That said, that means that most of the illegal stuff, the illegal child pornography and stuff like that, comes from Russia. Don't go to Russia. I mean, I'm just saying Russia, the United States needs to get something, the EU or something, somebody needs to pass some type of law making this, because that is completely ridiculous. I realize after the fall of communism, a lot of things changed, but if you do some searches, a majority of a lot of this stuff, a lot of the illegal servers and websites and stuff like that all come from Russia. I know a lot of people didn't know that, but child pornography is legal in Russia. Just think about that for a second. So it's okay to. I mean, that is completely ridiculous. But thank you, Glendine. Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Gail, for being on.
Thank you.
I know
You're welcome.
Kinsley's still sick, but she'll be back on. She's our researcher. I have posted everything that you guys sent me on chat. That's up on the website. And thank you again, Glendine. It's an honor to have you on it, and I hope you come back. And stay strong and keep doing what you're doing. And Jesse, if you're listening, please somehow try to contact your mom. Either any way you have to do it. Be safe, but let her know that you're okay, because we're all hoping and praying that you are safe. That said, good night, guys. Tomorrow we'll be doing our next 3 cases. Good night, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, and good night.